the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So in Google, just type in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Then you can go ahead and click this top link. Then what you want to do is hit start your free trial. Now you can use a free trial on this, so you don't have to pay. If you really wanted to, you could create a free trial, go back and create another free trial with a new account. So what you want to do is go ahead and hit try now for AED0. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you're going to have to create one and sign in. And from here, you can just put in all of your card information and then hit start your free trial. Once you're signed in, it's going to look something like this. And this is where we're going to perform our search. So the first thing we want to do is put in our keywords. Let's go back into our chat in ChatGPT and let's grab some of these keywords. Now, I don't want to grab all of these because we're going to have to end up narrowing down our search anyway. So I'm just going to grab utilities or energy or electric power. And then I'll just copy this, bring it into Sales Navigator and paste it. From here, we can just hit enter. Now we have a big list of people that are associated with these keywords. Now let's go ahead and add in our industries. So we'll scroll down to industry, click the plus button, and in ChatGPT, it told us utilities, oil and energy, and environmental services. So we'll go ahead and include utilities. Second one was oil and energy, and since that's not showing up, let's just go ahead and select oil and gas. And the last one was environmental services. So let's go ahead and include that as well. Now let's go ahead and add geography. I'm going to select United States since that has a lot of high paying prospects typically. And you can see right now we have 1 million plus results. We want to get it down to around 2,500 prospects because anything more than that is going to flag our account for too many requests. So now let's go and add in some job titles. Now this one's important because we can target the decision makers at certain companies. We really don't want to deal with the back and forth of people that are lower down on the chain that can't really make the decisions for themselves anyway, arguing with them about budget and other things, when we can just go directly to the decision makers who can give us a yes or no answer right there on the spot if they wanted to. So let's start adding some of these in. I'm going to write in founder, co-founder, associate founder, partner, managing partner, owner, co-owner, principal owner. Let's get the marketing director. Let's find senior director of marketing, managing director. Let's find the director of operations. Let's also add small business owner. And you can see now our search has greatly reduced. Now let's go ahead and add in our function. So in ChatGPT, it told us some functions are customer support, customer service, operations, technical support, and field services. So let's try to find these. Let me just look up field services. Didn't show up. Let's write customer success and support. Let's try technical support. Doesn't show up. What about operations? Okay, that shows up, so let's add that. And now we're getting much closer. We are down to 4,500 plus results. Now, another thing we can do to greatly increase the chance that someone's gonna respond to our email is go down to see all filters, and actually it shows up right here. We wanna select posted on LinkedIn. This is gonna only select people that have posted on LinkedIn, which will greatly increase the response rate. And while this posted on LinkedIn filter will give us a much higher response rate, it's cut down our prospect list too much. We're only at 281. So I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this. This is rare. Typically you will find a niche that you'll have many prospects, even with the posted on LinkedIn turned on. So now that we're back to 4,500 results, let's start manipulating the company headcount to get it down to 2,500. So let's grab self-employed. We'll grab 1 to 10, 11 to 50, and then let's grab 201 to 500. We can also do 5,001 to 10,000 to see if we can get some higher ticket clients, and 10,000 plus, and now we're at around 2,500 results. Now we are using this niche as an example, but I do highly recommend that you find a niche that allows you to get to this 2,500 mark while enabling this posted on LinkedIn filter because of the number of responses that you will get. So now that we have our Sales Navigator search set up, we need to get all of this information into a spreadsheet. To do this, we need to head to phantombuster.com. What this tool is going to do is use our LinkedIn Sales Navigator search and go through every lead and add it to a CSV file, which we can then import into a Google spreadsheet. What we want to do is go ahead and start a free trial. You can just enter in your email and then put in your first and last name and a company name. I'm just going to write none and then sign up. So then we can just fill this out. I just put marketings, what's the size of your company, 1. I'm going to use this to find and extract leads from Sales Navigator. And we can just hit next. Then what you want to do is install this Chrome extension. This is going to open up a new tab, and from here you can just hit add to Chrome and then add extension. Then we can go back to Phantom Buster. We want to browse phantoms. Now think of these phantoms as bots that basically go and do different things. What we want to do is go down and get the Sales Navigator Search Export Phantom. Then head back to your LinkedIn Sales Navigator search, copy the link at the top, go back into Phantom Buster, and then paste it here. Then we can save this. Now we need to connect to Sales Navigator. Now if you haven't connected before, this is going to be blank. But once you have the Chrome extension installed, you just want to click this button here that says Connect to LinkedIn. Then you can save this. Then we're going to leave all of these settings at default. For the results file settings, just give it a name that you want. I'm going to call this one Utilities and Gas Scrape 1, and then save this. And for now, we want to leave this at launch manually, and then we could go ahead and save this as well. Now, how the free trial works is processing time. For these 2,500 leads, it's going to take you around 30 to 40 minutes. So you can get 2 to 3 uses out of this with the free trial. Now that everything's set up, you just want to go ahead and launch this. Now this is going to go profile by profile in the Sales Navigator search and start extracting the lead information. All right, so once the Phantom is done running, you're going to see successful authentication, and then you'll have 2,500 profiles found. Now, I ran this more than once today, so I had too many requests on my LinkedIn, so I'm probably not going to be able to run this again until tomorrow. This is why you can only do around 2,500 per day per account. Once that's done, you're going to have all of your results down here. You can scroll through the pages, and you can see all of your leads. Now, what you want to do is just download these results. Now, I was able to download all of these because I have a subscription, but if you don't, you can only download 10, and so you won't be able to download this into a spreadsheet. Now, in a new Google Sheets, what you want to do is go to File, Import, Upload, and then select the CSV file that you just downloaded from Phantom Buster. We're just going to keep everything at default and hit Import Data. Now you have the full spreadsheet with profile URL, full name, first name, last name, company name, title, company ID, company URL. We get a nice summary of what the person does, their title description, and a bunch of other useful information. We're going to end up using the title description in their summary to make some good personalizations. But one thing you'll notice is that we don't have their email. What we're going to end up doing in Make.com is connected to an email enrichment service. I'm going to show you AnyMail Finder. It has a free trial for 3 or 4 days if you want to use that. An alternative is you could check out dropcontact.io, and then you could just put the spreadsheet in there, and it'll give you out a whole list of leads that only has the email. But you can just keep following along these lessons, and I'll show you how we can find the emails for each of these contacts in Make.com. So now that we have our leads in our spreadsheet, we are finally ready to hop into Make.com and start building our scenario. So the first thing we want to do is actually access our spreadsheet inside of Make. So as always, we're going to add a Google Sheets module, and we want to find the search rows function. Now let's go ahead and select our spreadsheet. I called mine Utilities and Gas Scrape 1, then select our sheet, and now we can leave all the rest of these fields as we normally would. And for the maximum number of returned rows, I'm just going to set it to 1 for testing purposes. Let's go ahead and run this to make sure that we're accessing all of our information. And if I go ahead and click this magnifying glass, you can see that we do have our first row with all of the information that we need. You've probably noticed that we have this spreadsheet of leads, but we don't actually have the emails for the leads. So let me quickly explain how we're going to do this. We're going to use a tool called AnyMail Finder, and this allows you to basically try a bunch of different combinations of the person's first, last name, and their company name to find the email for that specific lead. Now, this doesn't have a 100% hit rate. It has around a 60% hit rate, which is still going to give us more than enough results because we're inputting such a large number of leads. Now, let me just go over to my spreadsheet, and you'll notice that some of these names have letters after them. Some of them have emojis. So we're going to want to format these names so they only have the first and last name, making sure all capital letters are the same, making sure none of them are in caps. So how we're actually going to do this is just use a OpenAI create a completion module. We're going to use AI to just tell it, hey, based off this input, make sure the capitalizations are all correct. So let's go ahead, add another module, look for OpenAI, and then grab create a completion. And because this is such a simple task, for the model, we can just select GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is the cheapest. For the max tokens, I'm going to set this to 128. And now we can go ahead and add our training. So what we want to do is add a message. The first one's going to be the system prompt. And for the message content, I'm going to write, you are an expert, intelligent writing assistant. Now we can go ahead and add our message. For the role, we're going to select user. Now what we want to do is just tell the AI what it's supposed to be doing. So I wrote, properly format the name, remove emojis if present, and fix capitalization, only output the name. And again, the reason that we're doing this is because when AnyMail Finder is trying to find the emails, it uses the input name as a criteria, and we don't want any extra unwanted elements that's going to prevent AnyMail Finder from getting us an email. Now let's go ahead and add another message and start giving it some examples. So let's select user, and for the message content, let's grab a name from our spreadsheet that isn't correctly formatted, such as this one here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, bring it back into Make.com and paste it. And then we'll go ahead and add another message, make this role the assistant, and format this how we'd like. So it's just going to be just like this. Now let's do this a couple more times. Add message, user, let's grab a name from the spreadsheet. We can do this one here since it has some letters after the name. Paste it in, add another message, role, assistant, message content, so it'll just be Kyle Fortney. And let's just go ahead and do this 2 more times so we give the AI enough examples. Add message, role, user. Let's find another name that isn't correctly formatted, such as this one. Let's go ahead and copy it, bring it back, paste it, assistant. Let's do this again. Right here is a good example. Go ahead and copy this, bring it back, add a message, assistant. We're just gonna write Bobby, assistant. Now we can go ahead and add our last user message, which is going to be user. And for the message content, we're just going to select the full name from our spreadsheet. From here, we can hit OK. I'm just going to right click this and hit run this module only. And then from here, we can input our own name, go back to the spreadsheet, grab a name like this, bring it back into the module and then paste it here so we can manually test if this works. Hit OK. And as you can see, it does work. It only outputs the name that we want. So let's get started with actually finding our emails. You want to navigate to anymailfinder.com. Once you do, you'll be greeted by this page. And if you just wanted to give this a test, you can put in the full name from someone from your spreadsheet and their company name, and it will find the email for you. But let's just go ahead and get straight to getting a plan. So let's head over to pricing. From here, we can choose our plan. You can see it says we can try it for free for 3 days. And how any mail finder works is it will only charge you for emails that it finds with a 97% deliverability rate, meaning that even if it's only a partially verified email, it won't charge you for that credit. Since we're going to be sending out so many emails, let's use the scale option. And like I said, this is a free trial for 3 days. So we can go ahead and start a trial. It's not going to charge you until after the 3 days are over. So you can just go ahead and cancel before that trial is over. So let's hit start trial. From here, we can create an account, sign up with Google. And after you sign up, you can see it says thank you. And we now have 5,000 credits that we can use. From here, let's head to the API. We want to go ahead and enable API. And this is going to give us an API key. And this is what we're going to need in a second once we hop back over into make.com. So back in our scenario, let's add an HTTP request module. Now to set up our API, we need to head back over to AnyMailFinder and select Read API Documentation. So the first thing we need to do is get authentication. This is basically telling AnyMailFinder that we do have an account, we do have a subscription, and we can actually use their service. So in the documentation, head to the authentication tab. And what you'll see here is that we want to add the authorization header with the value bearer and then our secret key. If you've been through the demo build lessons, you'll already be familiar with this. So what we want to do is head back to make. In the HTTP module, we're going to add a header, call this authorization. And for the value, we want to write bearer, space, and then head back and copy our API key. Then go ahead and paste it in the same module. Now we should be all authenticated to access this service. Next, we need to find the actual endpoint that we need to use to get the information that we need. So what we're doing is searching for an email. So on the left side of this API documentation, just click the search for an email tab. So on the right-hand side, it gives you an example of the type of information that we're going to need. It says the domain and the full name is what's going to get us a response. But since we don't have the domain, you can see that we can also use the company name, which is what we're going to end up doing. So first things first, it tells us that we need a post request, and let's go ahead and copy this URL for this endpoint. Go back into make, paste the URL right here at the top, and then for the method, select post. Now for the body type, let's go ahead and hit raw, go back to AnyMailFinder, copy this JSON response, select the content type to be JSON application JSON. And for the request content, we're just gonna go ahead and paste what we just copied. If you pressed Command-Shift-V or Control-Shift-V on Windows, it'll paste what we just copied with formatting. If you don't do that, it's just gonna paste it like so. And what we wanna do is change this domain to company_name, because that's how the variable is spelled over in AnyMailFinder. You can just copy and paste it if that's easier. Now, just to test this endpoint, let's go ahead and hard code a name in here. So let me head to my spreadsheet, and I'm gonna grab this guy's name, copy this, head back to make, and we'll go ahead and paste that in between the quotes for the full name. Next, let's go ahead and grab the company name, which you can find in this row. So I'm just gonna select all of this and copy, head back and paste in between the quotes. And now that we have everything filled in, let's test this endpoint. So I'm gonna right click on this module and hit run this module only. And you can see we got status code 200, which means everything is good. And if we look at the output data in here, you'll see that we got email and it gave us the email for this guy. The validation is saying that this email is valid and success is true. If I head back into AnyMailFinder, you'll see that I have one less credit, meaning that this is a fully verified email. And this is how we're going to move forward and find the rest of these emails. So now that we know that this works, let's just quickly slot in our variables. So for the company name, we want to delete this and insert company name from the spreadsheet. And for full name, we'll grab this from the GPT module, which is under the choices, message tab, and then content. Now this should be all set to run. And now that we successfully have our emails, we can move forward to creating an icebreaker with GPT. So now let's get into creating our personalizations for the icebreaker. But before we do that, something that I want you to notice is that in the spreadsheets, we get a lot of multi-line text, which can cause some issues down the line when we're making a request to instantly. So what we're gonna do is just quickly format that before we put this into ChatGPT. It's also gonna help us save on some tokens as well. So let's go ahead and add a module. Let's look for tools and then set multiple variables. From here, we just wanna add a bunch, and we're gonna end up filling these in with the information that we need to pass over instantly. So the first one will be full name. For the variable, we'll get full name from the spreadsheet. Next, we'll get company name, which is here. Then we'll get the title. So now we need to actually start doing some formatting to our text. Now we need the summary. And what we want to do is use the replace function. So we'll go ahead and click this replace in the text and binary functions tab. And for the first field, we're going to type in the title description. Then for the second field, what we want to do is replace new lines with spaces. And also as a good practice, we want to replace the double quotes with a single quote, just because this can cause some issues with JSON requests down the line. So we're just going to add another replace function. Then we add a double quote and then a single quote. And this should actually be the summary. So let's just quickly copy this, paste it down here for the variable value. Then from here, we can add the title description and then just remove this title description up here and then replace it with the summary. From here, we can just hit OK. Now let's add our OpenAI module to start creating the icebreaker. So we'll click OpenAI and then create a completion. Now what I'm going to do is select GPT-4o system. And from here, let's add our system message. For the message content, we'll write, "You are an expert, intelligent writing assistant." Now let's add another message. We'll add our user message. For the instructions, we'll write a personalized icebreaker to be used in a cold email. Use the provided LinkedIn profile as information. Be succinct, casual, informal, and use a Spartan tone of voice. Respond in JSON only. End with some variation of figured I'd reach out. Relate personalization back to user to simulate some type of shared interest. Now let's add another user message. And this is where we're going to start simulating the type of data that we're going to put over. We actually want to send all of our information to ChatGPT in JSON format. So I'm just going to quickly write this out, and then we'll have the JSON formatter fix it for us. So we need full name, company name, title, summary, and title description. Now we can go ahead and copy this, go to jsonformatter.org, paste this in the left side, and we can hit Format Beautify, and this will give everything to us formatted nicely for JSON. Then we can bring this back into the module and then paste it in. Now we can input all of our information nicely. So what we want to do is just head into our spreadsheet and start giving this some examples. So I'll just pick a random one. I'll grab this one here, copy it, bring it into full name and paste it. Next, we'll grab the company name, which you can see is column E, paste it between the quotes. Then we'll get the title. We can just click the block, copy it, and then paste it. Then we need to go get the summary, same thing, paste it in here, and then we'll get the title description. Now what we want to do is add an assistant message to see the type of way that the assistant should respond. And what this is doing, this user assistant, is training the type of responses that our model should give us. So now we need to write our example output. So we'll put icebreaker, and I'll write hey. And for those of you who don't know, a new line, meaning just an enter like this, is actually formatted like this, /n/n. So that's how we're going to be doing this. It makes everything cleaner, and it's going to help us with our API response later. So all you have to know is anytime you see a /n, that is technically just an enter. So I'm going to type, "Hey Derek, comma, /n/n," and now we can just read through his title description and summary. So he says, demonstrated history of working in the oil and gas industry, skilled in petroleum. So I wrote, impressive track record in oil and gas. Your experience with field operations and safety caught my eye. Figured I'd reach out. Now let's do this again with one more example. So we'll type user. From here, we can just paste in our JSON formatted output and this message content, and then fill in some more details. So the next one I'll grab is just this one here, copy it, bring it into full name and paste it. For company name, it's Museum of AI. So I'll take that over and paste it in the company name. Then let's grab his title. He's the director of operations. Then let's grab the summary, paste it in here. And then lastly, let's get the title description and then paste that in. Now we can add a message. Hit role, assistant, message content. Let's paste our icebreaker formatting. From here, I'm going to copy it and then paste that here. I'm going to write, "Hey Jeff," just shorten his name so it seems a bit more personalized. And then if we just read through his bio, he says he's a leader in sales marketing. Also constructs complex prompts to train LLMs on science, engineering, and business finance. He does a lot of stuff with AI. So just to quickly write a personalization, I have, your work on LLMs and AI education is fascinating. As someone who is deeply interested in AI's impact on education and operations myself, I figured I'd reach out. Now for the max tokens, you want to set this to 256. And I'm actually going to lower the temperature a bit to reduce the randomness. All right, so now that we have this formatted, let's add our last user message. And this is where we're going to input all of our variables. So we'll just paste in this JSON. And for the full name, we're going to grab the full name from the tools, company name, title, summary, and title description. Now, when you're in this step, go through and then copy and paste all of this JSON into the best JSON formatter to make sure everything's good. And if not, you can quickly paste it in the GPT and say, hey, what's wrong, to make sure you're not missing any commas or anything like that. From here, we can hit OK. Now let's give this a run. I have my Google Sheets module at a maximum number of rows at 5 just to test. And from here, we can just hit run and see what kind of outputs we get. And now if we go and check out these personalizations, you can see for operation 1, we have Icebreaker. Hey Peter, your blend of military precision and terminal operations expertise is impressive. As someone who values operational excellence and strategic solutions, I figured I'd reach out. So let's just check out some of these personalizations. This first one says, hey Sarah, love what you're doing at Future Energy Gurus. Renewable energy is a big passion of mine too, especially solar and EV charging. Figured I'd reach out. Another one says, hey Gerald, I noticed you're leading operations at Howard Energy Partners. Your role sounds impactful. Figured I'd reach out. It's enough to get our response rates up and give the person the feeling that we've actually dug a little bit into who they are. So now we're able to get our leads from a spreadsheet, format the names, find the emails, check if we have an email for that lead, replace the new lines with spaces, and then create our icebreaker. Technically, we would be ready to hook up to the Instantly API and start adding these leads to a campaign. But because I've run through this email process before, we're gonna run into an issue. Now, Make.com has a time limit for their scenarios that they run, and that time limit is 45 minutes. And if I just go ahead and run this scenario, you'll notice that these finding emails step takes quite a bit of time, maybe 5-10 seconds each, and multiply it out across a couple thousand leads. This is gonna time out the Make scenario, and we won't be able to fully process the entire set of leads. So what we need to do is we need to find these emails, and then we need to send this to a second Make scenario that can then be triggered, which its sole job is simply to add the leads to an Instantly campaign. So now we just have to quickly do some reformatting and set that up. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is just right click on this connection and unlink it. Same thing for the connection here. And I actually wanna add this in between format full name and find emails. That's because I'm also gonna remove this filter. So if I click this filter, we can just go ahead and delete this. Now, how we're gonna send this to a new Make scenario is with what's called a callback URL. And this is essentially a webhook, which we can use to send our data to a second scenario. So what I'm gonna do is just click this module, copy it, and then here I am in a brand new scenario. So I'm gonna paste it, and you can see our module pastes exactly from what we had before. Then I'm just gonna unlink this. Then from here, we need to go revisit the Any Mail Finder API documentation. You can see on the left-hand side, we have a webhooks section. So if I just click this and then scroll down, you can see we have webhook callback. And this accepts X webhook URL as a header, and then the URL to the webhook that we're actually gonna set up. So let's just quickly copy this, and then head back to Make. And what we need to add on this trigger is a webhooks custom webhook. Now we're gonna add our own webhook, and I'm gonna name this accept leads and emails from first scenario. And I'm not gonna input any IP restrictions. Then from here, I'll just hit save. Now you can see now this is listening for the data and will determine the data structure from the incoming data automatically. So what we want to do is head back to our other scenario. We want to add a header here, paste that for the name, and then for the value, we want to get our webhook URL. So let's hop into the new scenario and then copy this address to clipboard. This is the URL for the webhook, and then paste this in the value. Then, since this is waiting for data to accept it, we can go ahead and then run a little test on this scenario. And this finished, if we go to the second scenario, you can see it says successfully determined, meaning it's found the data structure that we just sent to it. We can hit OK. And now that it knows the data structure, we can go ahead and run this scenario, go back, and then run this first scenario again. And now if I check out the data from the custom webhook we just set up, you can see that in the results, we have our email, it's valid, and the success is true. And now that we are correctly receiving the data on this end, we also need another way to transfer the rest of the variables that we need for Instantly. So what we need to do is add some more of the variables to this payload. So let's just go in with our JSON and add a comma here and start adding in the other variables that we need. We'll write title, and then in close we can click the variable from our replace new lines module, add a comma, enter. We need summary, title description, company location, and person location. From here we can hit OK. Now we can go back in the webhook and hit redetermine data structure, run this scenario, and then go back to our first one and then run this. Now if we check our webhook and we check the input bundle, you can see we have our company name, our full name, our title, our summary, and everything else that we need. From here we can go ahead and connect this to our Icebreaker module, re-add our filter, and then go into our Icebreaker module and then rechange these variables from the webhook. So we'll say full name, company name, title, summary, and title description. Then from here we can test this again as normal. And if we check the output, you can see that we have our icebreaker just as we did in the first one. Then what we can do is add a parse JSON module. So if we just add a new module and look up parse, we can have parse JSON. And for the JSON string, we want to take the result from the icebreaker. And since we're outputting JSON from our OpenAI module, this is going to parse that and isolate the icebreaker variable so we can then send this to Instantly. So if I just run this again and I check this, you can see we have our icebreaker output with, "Hey Daniel, your extensive background in health and physics emergency management is impressive. With my own interest in radiological safety and emergency protocols, I figured I'd reach out." And the next module will be entirely on Instantly AI and how we can get set up all the way from getting domains, setting them up, warming up emails, to finally automating this whole outreach process. Email warming is essential for preparing your email accounts to ensure high deliverability and avoid spam filters. This process is vital for effective email marketing and outreach. Why we're doing this is because email providers have mechanisms to combat spam, which can classify new or inactive email accounts as low trust or low quality. Warming up emails helps build a trust score for your email account, ensuring your emails land in the recipient's inbox instead of spam or promotion folders. To begin warming your emails, we're going to create multiple email accounts and use platforms like Instantly to automate the warming process by sending and receiving emails within a peer-to-peer network, meaning this platform is going to send emails to themselves. This automation helps build a trust score through seemingly genuine email interactions. Now, the email warming process typically takes about 2 weeks. Each warm email account has a sending limit, typically around 50 emails per day. Now, to increase our outreach volume, we're going to use multiple accounts and set these up for as many as you want to send as emails a day. For the build that we're doing, this is going to end up being around 1,000 emails per day. This is going to involve purchasing multiple domains, with each domain supporting up to 3 email accounts. Now we're going to use Instantly's Done For You service, which automatically sets up our emails with all of our necessary records for us, because this can be a long-winded process and can be easy to mess up. Now this does add an additional cost for $5 per email, but it is well worth it because in 24 to 72 hours, we can have all of our emails set up with the correct records, ensuring that our emails don't land in spam. It's important to note that these are primarily one-time setup costs. Once you have your emails and domains properly warmed, the ongoing cost is minimal. This setup allows us to reach a point where we can send as many emails as we want for a fractional cost, making it a very high ROI system. This initial investment is well worth it, given the significant benefits and efficiency gained in our email campaign efforts. This is a key step in getting us to the point where we're getting 15 to 25% reply rates on our campaigns. In the next lesson, we'll hop into Instantly AI, where we can start setting up these accounts. Now let's get set up with Instantly AI. What you want to do is navigate to instantly.ai, and then you'll be greeted by this page. From here, we can go ahead and hit start for free. Now we'll add our first and last name, then we can add an email, and finally our password. Then hit join now. Then we can just fill in some of these fields, it doesn't really matter. Hit continue. Then we'll need to verify our email address. So you just want to go to the inbox of the email that you put in, and then you'll go through their verification. After you verify, you'll get into Instantly, and they're going to give you a quick walkthrough. You can just go ahead and click next. So the first thing we want to do is be on this email accounts tab on the left-hand side here. And from here, we can hit add new email. Now, since this is system 3 with the most ease of setup, we're going to be doing the Done For You email setup. And here, Instantly is going to do everything that we need to make sure our emails are optimized for deliverability, ensuring that they don't end up in spam. So we want to go ahead and click Gmail/G Suite. Now from here, you want to type in whatever domain that you think your main business will be. So let's say your main business is systemsai.com. Instantly is going to give you a bunch of recommendations for subdomains that we can select for our main domain. So you can see we have scalesystemsai.com, techsystemsai.com, gotsystemsai.com, and if you don't like any of these, you can go ahead and search for more. Now, typically the ones that do well are things like trysystemsai.com, getsystemsai.com, usesystemsai.com, having those little keywords in front of your domain. That way, if anyone searches up your company, nothing weird is going to pop up. You want something that's similar to your main domain. And if you don't have a main domain, that's okay. You can just pick these subdomains and we won't connect it to the main domain. You'll understand what I mean in a second. So I'm just going to do this one, trysystemsai.com. And from here, this will add to the cart. Each domain for the Done For You setup is $15. Now, we can only use 3 email accounts per domain, and we have a maximum of 50 emails that we can send out a day. So depending on how many emails you want to send out per day, that's how many you would select here. With just one domain, once our emails are fully warmed up, we'll be able to send 90 emails a day on the safe side and 150 emails a day on the less safe side. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll just select one for now. Then from here, we'll hit next. And then it's going to give us some combinations with our first and last name, and then the different names that we want at Systems AI. So since I'm going to actually be using this domain, I'm going to put in my real first and last name, and I don't want despite, so I'm just going to delete these. Then we can add in what we want the email to be. So I can just type in Cam and then hit add. And this is going to give me cam@trisystemsai.com, and then I'll put Cameron in the last initial and add. So now we have Cameron.s@trisystemsai, Cameron@trisystemsai, and Cam@trisystemsai. Now the last thing I want to quickly explain is the forwarding domain. And to do that, let me just go ahead and hit place order, and then we're going to get this pop-up, confirm domain forwarding. It says, it looks like you have not entered a forwarding domain. A forwarding domain is used to redirect these new domains to your existing website. Click continue to proceed without a forwarding domain, or cancel to add a forwarding domain. Now, if you already have a domain for your business with a website, you can enter whatever that is here. So for example, if I were to enter the realworld.ag, anytime anyone looks up trisystemsai.com, it'll automatically redirect me to the realworld.ag. What we should do is keep our subdomain separate from our main domain and just have a similar name. So if anyone looks it up, we can do that. This is completely up to you. If you want these subdomains to point to your main domain, if you have a website, then you can go ahead and add that here. Now, since I don't want that, I'm just going to hit place order and continue without forwarding. Then from here, it will add us to checkout, and we can go ahead and enter our banking details here. Now, once you're completed, you'll see our emails here, and it says setup pending next to it. And this setup is going to take 24 to 72 hours, and instantly is going to set up all of the necessary records that we need, such as SPF, MX, DKIM, and DMARC. Now, if I were to click test domain setup, you can see it says one domain's failed DNS check, and that's these ones because the setup is still pending. It says MX not found, SPF not found, DKIM not found, DMARC not found. Now, the next thing I want to show you is our health score. This shows us the health of our email accounts, which basically means whether or not these emails are going to end up in spam, if they have high deliverability, and we generally want to keep this number pretty high, and that's why we're going to take all the steps that we're doing to ensure that all of our emails end up in the person's inbox. Now, because these are still setting up, I'm just going to show you what we can do next with some domains that I already have. What we want to do is just click one of the emails, and from here you'll see a dashboard of the stats for the week. So this week on this account, I've had 15 warm-up emails received, 18 warm-up emails sent, and 0 saved from spam. The reason it's 0 saved from spam is because we're just warming up so far, and none are actually even sent to spam. And then if you go over the bar graph, you'll see how many landed in spam and how many were sent for each day. We want to make sure warm-up is enabled on the right, and then we want to go to settings. Now we're going to scroll through all of this. For the daily campaign limit, we want to set this to 0 to make sure none of these get actually added to a campaign and sent out. Then for the warm-up settings basics, for increase per day, it's adjusted as 1, but I put this up to 3. And for the daily warm-up limit, I set this to 50. You want to make sure you do not click this box and leave the reply rate at 30%. Now the next thing, if you have the hypergrowth plan for Instantly, which you'll need to make sure that we can send out 1,000 emails in a day, you can hit show advanced settings and you'll have the ability to mess with these options. What I like to do is enable read emulation and warm custom tracking domain. And then under you can see a description of what these do. Read emulation spends time and scrolls through our warm-up emails to emulate human-like reading. And warm custom tracking domain includes our custom tracking domain in our warm-up emails to further improve deliverability. Now, what a custom tracking domain is a unique domain or subdomain that's used to track email open rates and link clicks. You don't really have to worry too much about what this is, but we do want to enable this. So with Instantly, this is all set up. What we want to do is just click this custom tracking domain box here, and then you can see we can enter in inst.yourdomain.com. So for the email that I just set up, it would be inst.trisystemsai.com, and then you would hit check status and it would make sure it's all set up. But I'm just going to type in the one that I'm using for this email. So I'm just going to type this in here, and then I'll hit check status. And you can see it says CNAME verified, new SSL added, and now the SSL is active. From here, we just want to hit save at the bottom, and now our custom tracking domain is set up for this email. You want to go ahead and make sure all of these settings are set for each of the email accounts that you've set up. Now, moving forward, what you want to do is make sure that these emails warm up for about 2 weeks. You could go even longer, up to 3 weeks, if you have the time to wait and you want to increase the deliverability, but at least 2 weeks. What we're going to end up doing is once we get to our warm-up period, we're going to end up sending 30 emails a day per account, which is going to be the cold outreach, and then 20 emails a day that are still warm-up to make sure these accounts are nice and healthy and that they have a very high longevity and they don't get blacklisted or anything else. Now, once this setup pending is all done, you'll get an email saying that it's finished. And when you click this test domain setup, you're going to get a green check pop up at the top and say all of your records were found and set up successfully. Now that we have our email accounts and domain set up, let's start creating our first campaign. So what we want to do is just head to the campaigns tab on the left-hand side here. And then from here, we'll hit add new campaign. Then we'll just give it a name. I'll just call this campaign test and continue. Now we have our campaign dashboard. What our campaign is basically the list of emails and people that we're going to outreach to. We don't need to worry about adding leads now because that's what we're going to be automating with Make.com. Let's head to sequences and then create our first email sequence. We're not only sending one email to each of these prospects, we're going to be doing a whole email sequence, which includes the first email and then a couple of follow-up emails. So first things first, let's add our subject line. And I'm going to write first name, and this is where our variables will dynamically insert in. So to keep this simple, I'm just going to have first name, comma, question. Then for the email body, I have the icebreaker, and I wrote, I'm a freelancer, and I built system for companies in your industry that handle 90% customer support interactions without spending a cent on VAs. Based on the looks of it, I'm 100% sure I could do this for you, and it'd work easily. If you're interested, I'd even give you your first week trying it out completely free. Then I say, could I show you on a 15-minute call this week? Or if that's too much, send you a video breaking it down. Really confident this would work for you. Thanks for the time. Cam. Sent from my iPhone. Now, how this is working is we have our icebreaker as a personalization. Then we're telling them who we are and why they should care. After that, you would normally have a social proof saying something like, hey, in December I did this for X company and it did Y. But since we're starting out completely from scratch, I've worded it this way where it says, based on the looks of it, I'm 100% sure I could do this for you and it'd work easily. Then we have our risk reversal, which is basically telling them there's no reason they should say no. I have, if you're interested, I'd even give you your first week trying it out completely free. Then we have the call to action. So I have, could I show you on a 15-minute call this week? Or if that's too much, send you a video breaking it down. Really confident this would work for you. Then our ending, thanks for the time, Cam. And lastly, sent from my iPhone. This is shown to increase reply rates as it seems a bit more personal. It seems like we're typing this out from our phone and it's not some type of automation that's being sent out. Now from here, we can add a variant. And what this is a variant of the first email. And this allows us to do some A/B testing so we can see which type of email is doing better. We can test different subject lines, different type of email bodies, and instantly we'll automatically rotate through our emails accounts so we don't have to worry about the rate limiting. It'll automatically switch between the different variants or different email accounts and make sure everything's spread out equally. I'm just going to delete this and keep it at 1 for demonstration purposes. Then next we can add our second step in the sequence and we can send our next message in a specified amount of days. I'm going to leave this at 3. So after 3 days, our second step will send. Now for the second subject line, I have my name and then phone number. And this gives our subject line a bit more weight, telling them, hey, we're just not randomly emailing people. This is who I am. This is my phone number. This is how you can reach me. You could even do this as your first subject line and have every step be this same subject line, but this is completely up to your testing. How we like to do these follow-ups is the second one is basically saying, hey, sent you an email a few days ago. Here's what it's about. Let me know if you're interested. If not, blah, blah, blah. So what I have for this email is, hey, first name. Wanted to see if you had the chance to check out my previous message. I'd love to discuss. Be too long, didn't read. Came across company name, and I'm confident I can completely remove your need to deal with repetitive customer service tasks using AI. And again, this is following the same format as the first one, just slightly different wording. And obviously, you would want to change these parts of the email up depending on what exactly you're selling. And then I have, this is real and it works. I'd even guarantee you that in your first week, you won't have to deal with a single customer. Again, a call to action. Would you be against hopping on a 15-minute call this week? Thanks. Then I have, P.S. I went ahead and made that video showcasing this for you anyway. And like I said earlier, whenever you're providing a link, you want to make sure it's hyperlinked. And this is where you would do so. You just want to highlight whatever text that you want to hyperlink. This could even be a thumbnail. And then you come down to this insert link button, and then you put the link to your video. Now what this video is either a screen recording explaining your system and how it works and what it can do for them, or a VSL if you've been in the content creation campus. And you want to make sure that video is a youtube.com link, as this adds a lot of trustworthiness to your link and potential prospects are much more likely to click it. Now we'll add our last step. For the subject, I have first name, my last hurrah. Then for the email body, I say, hi, first name. Thought I'd hit you one last time before moving out of your inbox. Still think I can get rid of the need for you to spend time and energy on customer service, but we'll assume that automating your customer service isn't on the agenda for you in 2024. If you think there's room to discuss, just shout me. We could jump on a call to break it down. Take care, and then my name. Now this is basically a nice way of saying we're going to stop emailing them. We say, thought I'd hit you one last time before moving out of your inbox, which can add a bit of humor. Then we repeat the offer with their pain point. Still think I can get rid of the need for you to spend time and energy on customer service. Remember that we chose leads that have to spend a large portion of their time and energy on customer service in the utilities and gas industry. And then the rest of the email is self-explanatory. Then we'll set the time interval. I'm going to say that send the next message in 5 days. From here, we can hit save on these steps. Now let's check out the schedule tab. This is where we can schedule when our emails are actually going to get sent. So you can set the time zone that these are going to be sent, the exact times that you want them to be sent, and then what days. I'm going to leave this on Monday to Friday for business days. Now we can dive into the options. The first thing is the accounts to use. This is where we can select the specific accounts that we want to send these emails from. So for instance, if you only wanted to send these emails as a test from one of your domains, you can select that here. We want to keep stop sending emails on reply enabled exactly how it is here. This makes sure that if anyone replies to one of our emails, we remove them from the sequence so we don't go ahead and send them follow-up emails. This allows us to send the follow-up emails ourselves, which obviously take more care and adaptability to what they've actually sent us. Then for open tracking, I'm going to go ahead and disable this. Here's why. Open rates are not the best things to look at nowadays because some email providers have it so that the email opens tracking before a prospect gets to it. So it says that it gets read even though it wasn't. And other email providers have it so the tracking is blocked, so it won't even let you know if the email is opened. And what happens when you do open rate tracking is that there's a little 1x1 pixel in the email, and when they click that email, it will load a picture and send a notification that the email has been opened. And adding any sort of links, pictures, or GIFs will hurt the email's deliverability. So this is why I'm not going to enable open rates. If you want to, you can, as when you're starting out, this can be a good metric for you, but as I just said, it hurts the deliverability of the email. Now, another thing I want to note is you do not want to include any Calendly links. This is a bad idea. If you want someone to hop on a call, you just ask them if they have time this week at a specific time. Now, if we want the deliverability of our emails to be even more optimized, we can go ahead and send emails as text only, no HTML. But since we have a video, I'm just going to disable this. And then here we can set our daily limit. Now, this is how many emails you want to send in a day. And this doesn't really matter because when we go back to our email accounts, we can set the limit that we can send for each email. So as long as you have only one campaign that you're sending emails from a day, this can be a high number as the emails themselves will have a campaign limit on them. But let's say you're sending 2 campaigns in a day, then you would want to take the total amount of emails that you want to send in a day and divide that by 2. That way, the emails would be spread out evenly across your email accounts per campaign. Then we could go ahead and hit show advanced options. Here we can set the time gap between emails. I'm going to set 7, and then the random additional time is how much time it's going to wait after the 7 minutes. So it could wait 1 minute, it could wait 3 minutes, it could wait 5 minutes. It's random. And of course, we want these email sending patterns to be random, so we're not flagged for any type of automation. And then we have auto optimize AZ testing. Now I'm going to leave this disabled, but what this does is it will automatically switch between the variants in the steps of your email sequence. And so it will say, hey, variant 1 is doing better on these emails, so let's go ahead and just remove variant 2 and send the rest from variant 1. The reason I'm going to leave this disabled is because we want the full picture at the end once it's sent emails for each variant of which one performs better. Then we can enable provider matching. So let's say you have not only Google accounts, you also have Outlook. This will make sure that it optimizes these networks. So if you're outreaching to someone that has an Outlook email, then you send from an Outlook email, and same thing for Google, etc. The next thing we want to do is hit stop campaign for company on reply. This makes sure if we're reaching out to multiple people from one company, once one of them replies, we stop emailing that person if they're in the same company. The last important thing is allow risky emails. Now you can see what this does. When using verification, allow emails that are marked as risky to be contacted, or disable bounce protect to allow known risky emails to be contacted. Risky emails classifies as an email that's not completely verified, meaning that it could be someone that hasn't used their email for a while. Maybe their inbox is full. Maybe it's just an email that doesn't exist. And obviously we don't want to reach out to those emails because to our email providers, this is fishy. They can start flagging our email as spam. And for that reason, I'm going to leave both of these off. Then from here, we can save these settings. And once we actually have all of our leads in our campaign, this is where we can launch the campaign. The last tab I quickly want to show you is the analytics tab. This shows us the open rate, click rate, and reply rate. Now the most important metric by far is the reply rate, mainly positive replies. This is going to be our main metric for testing how our email sequence is doing. And if you look down here, we have step analytics. This is going to tell us which step in our sequence is performing the best. And again, this is valuable as testing for us, so we can see what steps are performing poorly, what steps are performing better, and why. Then we have the activity tab, and this is going to tell us that, hey, this person replied to this email at this step. Now that we've set up our campaign, we can hop back into make.com and finish up our automation to automatically send all of our personalized email and leads to our new Instantly campaign. So the first thing we want to do is add a HTTP make a request module. Now, before we start adding things, we need to actually go and check out the Instantly API documentation. So to get there, you just go to developer.instantly.ai. Now, I just want a quick note. This is where you need to get the hypergrowth plan with Instantly AI so we can actually use our API key. So what we want to do is find how we actually make a request to add a lead to a campaign. So on the left-hand side, if we go to the campaign tab, you can see the first option that's there is add leads to a campaign. As always, let's copy our request URL, head back into our HTTP module, paste it, and in the documentation, it says that we need to do a post request. Now let's go ahead and copy our request body. Now in this example, it's adding 2 leads. So what we want to actually do is copy the whole thing and then paste it into jsonformatter.org. And then we want to remove the second request before this comma. So that'll be everything but the last 2 brackets. Now we can go ahead and format this, and then this is our request. Because we're iterating and we're adding 1 lead at a time, we only need to add 1 lead in this HTTP request module. So back in make.com, for the body type, go to raw, the content type, go to application JSON, and for the request content, paste what we just copied from the JSON formatter. From here, we want to click parse response, and then we can quickly save the changes in this module by hitting OK. Next, we need to find our API key. So if we head back to the Instantly API documentation, at the top, it says to find our API key. We can click this URL here, and then it's going to load up a bunch of different integrations that we can use. But what we want is the Instantly API key. So I'm just going to go ahead and click copy API key, head back into make.com, and then in between the quotes next to API key, paste our API key. Next, we need our campaign ID. So let me just quickly delete all these zeros. We'll head into Instantly and then go into our campaign test that we made. And then at the top in the URL, the campaign ID is everything after campaign and before analytics. Basically, this stretch of numbers that's after campaign. Just so you don't get confused, if I was on the leads page, the campaign ID would be everything after campaign, but before leads. Same thing if I was on sequences, everything after campaign, but before sequences. Basically, again, it's just this string of numbers and letters. So we'll copy this, head back into make, and then paste that here. Next, we want to start entering in our variables. So for the email, it's going to be the webhook results email. For the first name, we're going to use this full name variable, or we're going to have to use our text functions to split this and easily get the first and last name. So what we want to do is head over to this cog. So we want to add get, and you don't really have to worry about what this does. If you want to hover over the get function, you can kind of see what it is, but just follow what I'm doing. After the get, head to the A tab and then click split. And then right after the open parenthesis in split, we want to add the full name from the webhook. We then want to split it by a space. So after this colon, we go to the A tab, hit space. Basically, this is saying, hey, with the full name, which obviously has a space between the first and last name, split it between that space. And then after that, before the last parenthesis, we want to hit 1 and saying, hey, okay, we're grabbing the first word that's before the space, which is the first name. Then we can copy this and paste the exact same thing for last name. We just want to change this 1 to a 2. Now we can add our company name. So that's going to be input company name. Then we can delete all of these because we don't need it. We just want to add our custom variables. So in here, I'm just going to delete this language line. And then instead of favorite restaurant, I'm going to write icebreaker, since that's what we're using for our personalization. And because I've already done this, I know that we're going to have to actually do a replace function. And we want to choose the icebreaker variable. And then we want to replace new lines with /n. This is so we don't get any errors in our request instantly. And if you're having any trouble with this formatting, don't worry, I'm going to provide a link to the blueprint that you can just import into make.com and you'll have all of this formatting set for you. We want to make sure parse response is checked to yes. Then we'll hit OK. And let's go ahead and give this a test. Now let me just quickly mention something. For my input webhook, I have the maximum number of results set at 2,500. I have turned the scheduling on, and whenever you send data from the first scenario, it's not going to run this scenario as you normally see it visually, because this adds data to the webhook queue. So rather, you're just going to see the leads pop up on Instantly side, and you're not really going to see anything happen here. So let me just go ahead to our first scenario. Our maximum number of return rows is set to 5. Let's run this and see if it's added to Instantly. And now if I refresh my Instantly campaign, you can see that we've successfully added our first lead to Instantly. Also, you can see that our icebreaker variable has correctly translated over. We have, hey Peter, your background in the Coast Guard and current role in terminal operations is super impressive. Love how you blend military precision with business strategy. Figured I'd reach out. And as you can see, if I refresh the Instantly page again, the leads are automatically being added in. And now something I think a lot of you are going to get confused with is the fact that this make scenario isn't going to run automatically. So what I want you to do is go into a new tab and then go to webhooks on the left-hand side of the page. Then you just want to choose the webhook that you're using in your second scenario and then go to queue, and then you'll see a queue of the data. So if I go back to my first Google Drive and then I send this through, you can see if I go to webhooks and then refresh this, I have a bunch of data in this queue. This means that this is about to be processed and is going to automatically be sent in the backend to our Instantly. So if I go back and instantly, you can see I have all of these leads. If I just hover over the icebreakers, you can see that those are also being generated. If this isn't working completely correctly for you, what I want you to do is click this ID, delete all of this data that needs to be processed, hit delete, head back into your webhook, turn the scheduling off. After you do that, then I want you to run this, send data from your first scenario. After you do that, I want you to turn the scheduling on. From here, you'll get a pop-up at the top, and what you want to do is hit process old data. Now this will automatically start going through everything that's in your webhook queue and adding it to instantly. And then from here, whenever you send data from your first scenario, it'll automatically go through this process, get into your webhook queue, and then get back into instantly. Now, another thing I want to mention is that if you already added a lead to instantly, it won't add twice, which is a good thing. That's why you're not seeing me get a bunch of repeated leads. But if I change the rows in my spreadsheet to, let's say, 15, and then I run this, you'll see that I now have a bunch of data in my webhook queue, and this is slowly going to be processed. Now I have 13 leads, whereas before I only had 9 leads. So this is only processing the ones that we don't already have in queue. And now if I head back to sequences, we can preview what this would look like in the lead that's in the top of our list. So in my first step, I can hit this preview button, and you can see what the full email is going to look like when we send it. It says, "Hey John, saw you're a people person and love kicking off projects with new clients, figured I'd reach out." And then from here, the rest of the email carries out as normal. If we wanted to check the other ones, you hit preview. Again, it says, "Hey John," and then for the second time, it says, "Came across Oil, the Woodlands Group LLC, and I'm confident I can completely remove your need to deal with repetitive customer service tasks." This is how AI is able to dynamically insert these icebreakers into the email. And now once you have your leads in your spreadsheet, our last step is to head to options and then launch our campaign. Once you hit the publish button, everything is going to start sending. Now I'm just going to wait until all of my leads are actually added to this campaign. And you'll also have to do one more thing. You want to go to your email accounts, set the daily campaign limit to 30, hit save, and then do this for any email that you're using in this specific campaign. And then also make sure in the options you've added the accounts that you're using for this campaign. In future lessons, I'll show you more about Instantly and how you can manage these leads, such as marking them as interested, replies, reply rate, and all that stuff. But let me just quickly introduce you to the Unibox. And this is where all of your inboxes will be. You can filter by the campaigns that you have, the email systems that you have, filter by status. This is where you can mark leads by interested, meeting booked, meeting completed, etc.